If you are already convinced of the virtues of source control, feel free to skip ahead to the next video. However, I know that not everyone is sold on the concept, particularly solo freelancers. I have to admit, I was in this crowd for a while until I accidentally deleted some important source that I had been working on for weeks. Which leads me to my first point. Source control is a type of backup. It's not just a normal backup that's difficult to access or restore. No, instead, it's an ongoing backup of every version of your source that you have made, creating a history or a trail of changes. This allows you to undo changes that you've made or restore from a previous known state. In doing so, you could compare various revisions of your code. For example, what has changed in the last 2 weeks? In the process of moving your exclusive residence of your source from your local system to a shared server, your source can allow collaboration and teamwork on a project. And, while working on a team, sometimes you need to know who to blame for breaking the latest build or other opportunities for learning. Source control supports the concept of branching off to make changes in isolation. This encourages experimentation, but in a safe way, without immediately impacting ongoing new development. Finally, some source control systems provide excellent tools for reviewing code for collaborative learning and improving the quality of the project. As I touched on before, there are several types of people that need version control. Nearly any text-based file can be version controlled, and even the occasional binary should be as well. The first, most obvious group would be software developers, software engineers, and programmers. They typically need version control for programming source files like the ones used for developing Ruby, Java, Objective-C, and any other programming language. However, there are several other types of files that need versioning, like UML diagrams, especially if they're stored as XML documents, or SQL scripts, or text-based configuration files. Freelancers often don't bother with source control. Many feel like it's unnecessary since they don't work on a team or at a company that requires this overhead. I think it's even more critical for freelancers to use some type of version control system, since they are the only ones with a copy of their work, and they often don't have the same support network enjoyed by teams at most companies. I held that same opinion until I made a mistake and lost a lot of hard work. Web designers often use tools that save their mockups as HTML, or in a text-compatible format that is great for source control. Also, any original art for websites should be version controlled. Like web designers, graphic artists should save their original art and assets in version control. In particular, vector graphics like SVG files are XML documents, or other text format files that are ideal for version control. To a certain degree, I even support versioning original Photoshop files. Finally, anyone planning to share their code or contribute to an open source project needs to be familiar with source control, since all major open source projects use it heavily. By this point, I assume you will want to use a source control system of some type. So, what are the options? While there are many types and flavors of version control systems out there, I see two major types: centralized and decentralized, or also known as distributed. Granted, there are several version control systems that have incorporated elements of both in them, but fundamentally, a tool is either one or the other. On the centralized side, we have Subversion and CVS, which are the free and open source options. Commercial offerings include ClearCase, Perforce, and TFS, as well as many others. The main concept with centralized systems is that there is a centralized server that is the ultimate source of truth for a collection of versioned files. This normally means that a network connection is required to the central server for most operations, including just editing a file. On the flip side, the decentralized or distributed approach doesn't mandate a central source of truth and allows for most operations to be local. For example, you could get some meaningful work done while on an airplane crossing the Atlantic Ocean, completely disconnected from your company network and the internet. Source control systems that fit this model include Mercurial and Git.